Honor Club, where honor is real.
I don't know if the journey seems short to you, but if you started, whatever it's been, 6 years ago, whatever, you've come a long way in a short time, certainly from ending up in the hospital in your first bump to where you are today. I want to talk to you, though, about those early days. I mentioned it in the beginning of the show that you looked much different. When I first saw you, it was at a Maryland Championship Wrestling show. I think it was like 2016, so I guess you were like 18 or 19 at the time. And I've told you this before, so and I know I can be brutally honest with you because you just don't care. So I remember seeing you in the locker room at that point. I didn't know who you were. You walked in, and I took one look at you, and I saw this bleach blonde bombshell with a skin tight outfit, and I thought I was like, wow, this is like a walking cliche of a wrestling diva. And when you walked in, you know, all eyes turned towards you, right? Like all the guys in the locker room, their tongues are on the floor. But I just thought, you know what? Like these plastic like Barbie dolls are a dime a dozen in the wrestling business, and I just can't see this girl ever making it.
Yeah.
So looking back at that time, what was your mindset as far as what you wanted to be in the wrestling business?
Honestly, my mindset was a businesswoman thinking, hey, honestly, this is the truth. I knew that I wasn't qualified for the job. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I knew that I could dress the part and I could play the part. It's like a little kid dressing up to play doctor. You know what I mean? You know what the doctor's supposed to look like, how they're supposed to act. So I was just like this robot playing what I thought wrestling diva was. And I like you said, I was doing a good job of what wrestling diva was. But then over time, I realized that wrestling is not about that. Wrestling is about being yourself and finding yourself. And, for me, it was a lot of people get into wrestling at, 28 years old, 30 years old, where they've already figured themselves out. They already know who they are. I got into wrestling not knowing who I was at all. So over this time, I figured it out. And I don't think I would have ever figured out who I was if it weren't for wrestling. And you think about wrestling, you're just kind of wrestling with yourself the whole time.
That's mentally. A good way to put it.
So, but I knew that look was what was in at the time, and I was just trying to fit that mold. But I was so far away from myself that it was so unauthentic, and I was so miserable trying to play this part of something that was so far off from what I actually was. It was funny. Have you ever seen White Chicks, the movie?
No.
It's two black guys. They go undercover, and they have to dress up as this white girl. And I'm like, that's me. Like, I'm so different, so different than what I would put out. Like, I remember I used to go to these wrestling shows and I'd put on these cute outfits and I'd have to suck it in all day and talk with this super nice voice. And then I would get home and just rip it off and turn into an animal. Like, it was, that is a transformation I wish I could have recorded and people could have seen, like me getting home from those wrestling shows and then like turning into my, you've had to have seen Shrek, right?
Yes.
I'm Fiona. Like when Fiona, she can, you know what I'm saying? She can come out in the daytime and look like that, but then she's ugly Fiona when she goes home. And I have to remember that I still am ugly Fiona, and I'm always ugly Fiona, but I can dress it up nicely. But the good thing is there are Shreks out there that will find you attractive, and it's not. I guess this is more of a life lesson than a wrestling lesson, but it's not about being attractive to everybody. It's about being very attractive to one person. Right. That's all that matters. You're never gonna be perfect to everybody.
Well, and I didn't want to imply that the way you look now is unattractive. It's just extremely different from the way you looked then.
Exactly.
So how did the transformation into the Maneater come about? Like you said, you didn't feel authentic. What sparked you to become more of the person that you really are? And how did you end up doing intergender matches and death matches?
Yeah, that kind of all came into play. It started with the intergender matches, which I have to think everything is led by somebody else. Everything is led by somebody else's idea. Like, where there was that first person that said, hey, I'm going to book you against a guy and see how you do. Or, hey, I'm going to start booking you against the guys because you've been working out really hard in the gym. You're looking really big. You're almost as big as some of these guys. I want to give you that chance. It was somebody believing in me and making me think that I could do more than just, look like a slut and wrestle the girls. And I have no problem wrestling the girls. I don't mean it like that, but being told that I can only wrestle the girls. I don't like having any boundaries with it. I want to wrestle whoever I want.
Gotcha.
But I don't know. I have to obviously credit Schlack. I'm sure you know Schlack, who did the tattoo.
Yes, deathmatch wrestler.
Yes, deathmatch wrestler. He came up with the tattoo, which he kind of left it open ended to me, where it's like, here's this tattoo I'm going to give you. Figure it out, make it come true. And that's how I took it. Whereas it's a story that's he's giving me the title. Now you go write the story. And to me it was so open ended, where Maneater could mean so many things, and no one really knows what it means yet. And I can't really give you the end of the book now, but
Right.
I knew it would turn into something, and it's not what people think it would be, but it gave me a starting point. It gave me a starting point to work with, where now I can work on the project. But he gave me that opening.
Right. So let me ask you then about your parents again. If your dad thought wrestling was like gymnastics or whatever in the beginning, I have to ask, what are your parents' reactions to the death matches, where you're obviously going in there, like I said, with some scary looking dudes, and these are death matches with weapons and bleeding and all that stuff. Like, what kind of reaction have you gotten from them?
Honestly, I didn't really talk to them much while I was in that phase of doing that, and I think I knew that they, wouldn't want to see that. And I, if my parents were happy with that, then there'd be something wrong with them, But I told them that it's just proving something to myself. I'm testing myself, seeing what I can handle, because you never know what you can handle until you've been put in that situation and you've been tested. And I'm the kind of person where I want to be tested in life. I want things thrown at me that suck. I want to get through them, because every time I get through those things, I get to a higher level. And like, I'm weird. I like to test myself in certain ways. Like, I like to see, like, oh, how long can I stay in this house, in this room, and not leave, and entertain myself and be satisfied? How long can I survive with certain circumstances? I enjoy that. I don't know what it is. Something wrong with me that I want to be in. It's like I like suffering sometimes. Because you have to suffer to get to the top, and to have that wisdom. To me, life is about wisdom. It's not about knowledge. It's about wisdom.
Well, there's definitely something to be said for suffering for your art, I think. But let me ask you about intergender wrestling then, because intergender wrestling, obviously, it's a polarizing subject. It's not something that's really been done in ROH a whole lot. And there was a lot of internal debate about whether you should work with men or not in Ring of Honor. Now, my personal opinion has always been it's a case-by-case basis, right? So, like, this is just my personal opinion. I don't necessarily believe a woman who's like 5'4", 120 pounds fighting a 275-pound or 300-pound man. I think that stretches credibility a little bit. But I can certainly believe you are fighting men. So what are your thoughts on intergender wrestling in general, and as it applies to you specifically?
Like you said, I think it's a case by case, and I think it's also person by person. Meaning, do I want to wrestle men? Yeah, I want to wrestle women too. I want to wrestle a lot of people. You can't make someone wrestle me if they don't want to wrestle me. It's all about the two people agreeing. So if you have the two people, they said you wouldn't want, a tiny woman fighting a giant man. Say I'm 200 pounds. You wouldn't want me fighting I don't know who's a very big guy. You wouldn't want me fighting Brock Lesnar. It's not realistic. But if Brock Lesnar agrees to that fight, and I agree to that fight, and I say, hey, I'm probably going to get knocked out. But I don't mind that. And I want the challenge. I want to take this fight. Then if both of us agreed to do that, we should be able to have that fight, is my opinion on it.